The San Francisco 49ers advance to the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, defeating the Dallas Cowboys 23-17. Rapid React pod here. Our takeaways, key plays, key players in this one, and game balls coming up right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock, at Eric_Crocker. We're back home. We're back at our podcast studios, Croc. Apologies to those fans out there that were hoping to have the first thing early Monday morning Rapid React pod or the post-game live YouTube Rapid React pod Sunday night. But I was on an airplane, Croc. You were traveling from the stadium in Dallas with the 49ers victory there. And wow, what an environment. 2 weeks in a row for the 49ers. Really, the playoffs started early for them in week 18. There was so much red at SoFi Stadium. And again, the 49ers fans traveled extremely well to Dallas this time as the Niners beat the Cowboys 23-17. Looked great early. I think some folks got a little bit tight in the end, a little bit anxious at the end of that football game. The 49ers came out on top. We'll get through all the big plays and all the big moments there and give out some game balls here. Croc, the first thing, though, I want to know about is what was the environment like in Dallas as the 49ers went out the road again and won another huge football game?
Yeah, it was a good one and interesting. You know, there was a huge crowd at Jerry's World, the stadium. They did the whole whiteout thing, which I think helped the 49ers because the red popped a little bit more.
And
I'd
white
say
is the 49ers secondary color too. So if you look at a crowd, you see red and white. You look on the field, which team's red and white? It's the 49ers.
Right. So, it was cool. It was cool from that standpoint. I thought the 49er fans were loud. I thought they were really good. But like you said, towards the end of the game, the Cowboys, they started cranking up. When Jimmy Garoppolo threw the interception, it was almost deafening in there. The crowd got crazy, obviously, in favor of Dallas Cowboys. So, it was an interesting game and really kind of a tale of two halves, but the 49ers were able to pull it off.
Let's start there because, at the very end of the game, too, when the referees said, that's the game. That's the end of the game. Game over. And the crowd roared. It sounded like a 49ers home game. And the funniest thing about all of it was them saying, game over. And then the refs just run off the field as quick as they could, getting stuff thrown at them. Bad look by Dak Prescott after the game saying it was good on the fans for throwing stuff at the refs. Like, come on, dude. That's definitely not where you want to point the fingers. It was not a good game played by the Dallas Cowboys, but I don't want to even put it on the Cowboys for losing that game. The 49ers went to Dallas and won that game. They dominated. If this was a boxing match, Croc, I'll put it this way. If this was a boxing match and you had three judges giving their scorecards at the end of the game, it would be unanimous. The 49ers
would be unanimous
up on the Dallas Cowboys, right? Even though it looked like a one-score game and it was close, and the Dallas Cowboys were right there, and they never made that throw into the end zone that could have put them over the top in that game. But the 49ers dominated. They credit to the Cowboys for bending, not breaking. That's kind of been the 49ers brand of defense. But those drives that ended in points, but they were field goals instead of touchdowns. The 49ers weren't able to throw that haymaker in the first half to really put the game away and allow that little crack in the second half for the Dallas Cowboys to come back and make it a football game.
Yeah, that was one of those games, and the 49ers have kind of had those games, and I don't want to be the guy to get on Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Jimmy Garoppolo played well, but one thing I've kind of noticed in some of these games, and Jimmy doesn't put teams away. The run game does. So if there's times in games where he may need that throw to really put a team away, he doesn't really have that play. And we've seen it kind of rear its ugly head, whether it was a game like Tennessee, where ultimately they did lose that game, or sometimes it's a game like the Rams game, right? Where, he's able to come back and do some things. And it's just interesting how with Jimmy Garoppolo, a lot of times in games, like there's two versions of him that show up. And ultimately, those two versions make up what Jimmy Garoppolo is, which is a guy that plays well for stretches and has weird moments. And for whatever reason, he lets teams hang around. Like that Tennessee game, that should have been a blowout, right? Like just the way it was constructed, how the 49ers came out, they punched him in the mouth, they're driving down again. Oh, interception in the end zone. Oh, interception short, setting up a short field. And then you look at this Dallas Cowboy game where 49ers, I mean, they just boom, boom. I mean, you have them on the ropes and you have an opportunity up 23-7. You got a Brandon Ayuk wide open on a blaze out, and you airmail it. And that missed throw right there allowed to kind of open up the door for a Cowboys team. And then they get a field goal. Then things start getting a little tighter. And all of a sudden, oh man, we have a ball game because we weren't able to put them away. And ideally, I think if you ask Kyle Shanahan, he would like to put teams away on the ground because the more you have to throw the ball with Jimmy Garoppolo, some weird things they're just liable to happen. And it did.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan wants to play keep away. It's the way this team's built. It's the way this game went for the 49ers, and you really couldn't have scripted it better in that regard for the 49ers, especially the way it started, just dominating it. The way I thought about it was it looked like the 49ers were a train and the Cowboys were just standing on the tracks in the first quarter of that game, jumping out to a 10-0 lead. The Dallas Cowboys could not stop the 49ers. Jimmy G, yeah, and you're right. It's good Jimmy, it's bad Jimmy. We've seen it so much. We know who he's going to be, and especially in the second half. The interception there, it's like the only way they can get back in is if you throw that interception, right? It's the one thing you can't do. It's one thing that can't happen. We've seen that from Jimmy Garoppolo. He ended up with not a great looking stat line. Actually, I think he played better than what his stat line ends up looking like because he was good Jimmy in the first half. And it was throwing some darts out there, and it was vintage Jimmy Garoppolo efficiency. 16 of 25 passing, 172 yards, no touchdowns, and the interception. It was all about
his second half. His second half is what I saw some numbers people tweet out. And again, I'm not Jimmy. To me, I've accepted what Jimmy Garoppolo is. So my expectations maybe aren't as high as other people to see him like play well for an entire game. But he threw for like 30 something yards in the second half or something like that. Like just something like a wild number. And when you're trying to put your foot on the team's neck and really put them away, that's not ideal.
Actually, you know what I want to talk about really quick? You mentioned it there for a second, was the missed throw to Brandon Ayuk. And there's been some arguments out there about that play. And I don't know if we've gotten any confirmation from the team in any of the post-game stuff. And I need to catch up on some of that stuff because I did fly home right after that game from Utah. And again, apologies for not having the podcast out last night.
We were both on the plane. I flew out right after the game. I had to book it to the airport and beat the traffic and then, get home. I didn't get home till like 1 a.m.
Oh man, I had a crazy weekend. It was so fun. And I was skiing and I was watching some games on my phone, like on the ski lift and on the mountain, if I could get any kind of reception up there, and then trying to find little lodges and places to watch part of games here, part of games there throughout the weekend, then skied down the mountain in Park City right to our lodge where we were staying so I could get there in time to watch the 49ers game. Then I had to get a lift to the airport. So I was watching the third quarter and halftime on my phone, and it was crazy. It was such a fun weekend, and I'm sore from all the skiing. I got to get into better shape, Croc. But man, it was so much fun watching all the games and seeing all the fans of all the teams everywhere. The Buffalo Bills fans, by the way, at one bar were loud. They traveled, I think, as good as anybody, as good as 49ers fans travel. Buffalo Bills fans travel well. I guess they just show up wherever it's cold. Maybe that's
what they showed up with, throwing things on the field.
How about wait, real quick, Croc, I want to get to this because before we get to the next segment, I want to talk about the 49ers defense. I want to talk about the run game, obviously, but that route, there's been some. Do we blame Ayuk? Do we blame Jimmy Garoppolo for that route? Because he toasted Trayvon Diggs. He was wide open, but was that a sluggo? Was that the post corner? Was he supposed to take it to the flag? Was that the blaze out, as you mentioned? Because the way I saw it live was that it was just wide open and a bad throw. Then you watch back, you're like, oh yeah, you're right. He flattened it out. What was it? Because if that's a post corner, what is Ayuk doing? If it's a blaze out, why is Jimmy throwing it? Is he just throwing it to daylight? Does he have to get rid of the ball too quick and can't see a clear picture of where the out was going to be? Because Ayuk ran it like a blaze out. And for those of you who don't know, a blaze out is sort of like a post corner. It's a double move where you make it look like you're going to the post, but instead of going to the corner, you break it all the way off flat like it's an out route. So it's a blaze out, and it's a tough route could run, but if you run it well and you can threaten a defense deep, that route is nearly undefeated for guys that can run it well. Julio Jones is the first name that comes up with the blaze out. It's the guy I think of, and Ayuk broke him off there, but it's hard to break it all the way to the sideline because he didn't break it straight out. So which was it to you, Croc?
Every time I've seen it, the guy flattens the route off. So whether it's, you talked about Julio Jones. I watched Julio Jones talk about it on Hard Knocks with how to run the route. I remember against the Packers a few years back, Marquise Goodwin, he ran a terrific blaze out where he was wide open. And every time I've seen it run, no matter who it is, they flatten that route off. I've never seen anybody take it up. Now, I did see our guy Haberman from the Haberman in the Middle Call podcast. He got a message from a former receiver, a former NFL receiver, who said, if you're open like that, you want to take it up. And I could see that being the case too. But no matter how open Julio Jones was, he always flattened it off. I never saw Julio take it upfield. So I don't know if Kyle Shanahan coaches it up in a specific way to where you flatten that route off. But if it's based off what I've seen from Julio and other guys running it for the 49ers, Ayuk was right. But maybe I'm wrong. But now, if you have that rapport with your quarterback where it's like, hey, I just beat this guy so bad, just throw it up and I'm going to take it upfield, then yeah. But clearly, Ayuk wasn't thinking that. He flattened it off like I've seen everybody else do, and the ball was just high.
I guess I could see that where there's an option there, and you would have to have that rapport, and maybe that's where it was, where Jimmy saw it, that it was open deep, so he throws it deep, and you're supposed to be able to see that and read it if you're a receiver, but that seems extremely difficult to be able to pull that off, and obviously the 49ers did not pull that off, so maybe that was the explanation, that they were both sort of right and both sort of wrong there. Anyway, let's move on to the ground game, which was the key for the 49ers winning this game, as we predicted on the Keys to Victory pod, Croc. We'll get to what the 49ers defense did to thwart the Dallas Cowboys offense and our game balls from Wild Card Weekend next. But I want to let you guys know about Built Bar, which was something I utilized on the slopes of Park City, Utah this weekend. It's the perfect snack. You put it in your jacket and you get hungry up there on top of the mountain. You get all that protein, but it's good for you as well. 17 grams of protein in most Built Bars, but only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, only 4 grams of net carbs in most Built Bars, and so many delicious flavors to choose from. My favorite, peanut butter, brownie, coconut, almond, raspberry, cookies and cream. There's all kinds of specialty flavors coming out all the time at Built.com. So go check it out. If you're not sure what flavor you want, you can get a mixed box of Built Bars as well. And if you're trying to stick to those New Year's resolutions, this is a healthy snack that tastes delicious, that you can feel good about eating and can help you keep those resolutions into February. So go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com.